What'd you make of the committee ranking Alabama ahead of Michigan?
I thought they made the right choice, and it was a very narrow choice, Max. But ultimately, Alabama beat the #1 team in the country. That sounds strange to say, considering Alabama is usually #1. They did it in convincing fashion, and yeah, I think after that it gets really narrow. But Michigan has had a phenomenal season, but I think beating Georgia, Trump beating Ohio State last week, and Iowa this week.
Paul, what did you make about Nick Saban's yummy rat poison comments that he made?
Yeah, here's a guy who 4 years ago, blamed the media for feeding his team with rat poison and almost causing them to lose, and now he's talking about it in reverse. Nick Saban, of all people, is claiming that his team was motivated because everybody picked Georgia to win the game. Now, I don't think that had one thing to do with the game, but Saban is a master of the moment, and he loved needling the media because, quite frankly, very few people thought Alabama was going to win this game. When the line came out at 6.5, I had some people that covered Georgia saying if that was anyone other than Alabama, it would be 14-17. That's how a preponderance of evidence seemed to be stacking up against Alabama. So Saban having one of the most bizarre seasons I've ever seen in terms of actually looking like he's a human being and enjoying life, guys. And he really, he hasn't done it yet. But this team has not been great at times. They've been very fragile. They've been inconsistent. And here we are heading into the playoff, and they're #1 in the country. It's so remarkable to have watched this thing and to have seen Saban seemingly enjoy the journey for the first time.
I know he was smiling there at the podium, when they were getting the trophy. He's sitting there smiling from ear to ear, which was pretty amazing to me. But Paul, you said that a lot of people, when the line came out, they picked Georgia. But I never felt that way because he created the Georgia defense. So if anybody knows anything about the defense, it would be the guy who created it. That's why it was puzzling to me when everybody was acting as though that offense wasn't potent with Bryce Young. When we watched Bryce Young the entire season, true, the offensive line was suspect at times. But if anybody, man, Jay, you cannot count on Nick Saban.
Paul, real quick, did Bryce Young just seal up the Heisman? Is it his now?
It's over, and really, part of the reason it's over, Jay, is tell me who else should win the award. I mean, we've been through the various iterations of this. I think 3 weeks ago, Stroud had won it from Ohio State, and then we were trying to put defensive players in from Georgia, which are not going to happen now. So I think he had a moment against Auburn, even though that was one of his worst games. But he was so good, and back to what Keyshawn said a minute ago. That was really the difference. First of all, Georgia had a very bizarre defensive structure where they really didn't try to go after him that much. They should have. I don't know about you, but I would have just tried to knock him off his feet as fast as possible, and they didn't do that with the best defensive line of all time. At least that's what the people that covered Georgia told us. And Bryce was just unbelievable. It's worth remembering. There were a lot of games going on Saturday. Georgia went up 10-0. And a lot of people were wondering, like, what is going on here? And then all of a sudden, Bryce started threading needles that only a few people can do. And he just kept piling up. Alabama scored on 5 straight possessions against a defense, guys, that only one time this year gave up more than 13 points. They gave up 17 points to, I believe it was Tennessee or Auburn. I can't remember which one. I think it was Tennessee. And that was it. I mean, they blew teams. They shut teams down on a very regular basis, and all the here we go. The punditry of college football made them out to be this invincible defense, and Nick Saban was snickering the whole way over to Atlanta.
Paul Finebaum, host of the Paul Finebaum Show, joining us here on Keyshawn, JWill, and Max. Paul, we were talking on Friday about the chances of Iowa popping Michigan. That didn't happen at all. It went the complete opposite way. No. What would it say about Coach Harbaugh if they actually found a way to win a national championship? How would that change his legacy?
I think it's changing as we speak, and we're talking to you guys are talking to somebody here who has probably been as hard on him as anybody in the country. But I am amazed at what he has been able to do. and especially because everyone wrote him off. And by the way, I say this to Michigan fans, even his own people. I mean, they called him in here last year, into the office last year, Jay, and it came pretty close to firing him. I mean, they cut his salary. They in my opinion, humiliated him in front of everyone. Harbaugh just didn't seem to care because he's an old school football coach. He's not in this trying to be the next $10 million a year coach. And he went back to the basics and has put together a really remarkable team. I don't think he has to win it all to have gotten away, to have changed the perception. But if he did, especially against an SEC team like Georgia in the first round and Alabama in the second, it would further enhance the Jim Harbaugh that left the NFL after going to a Super Bowl and a couple of NFC title games.
Paul, Oklahoma Sooners finally got that man in Brent Venables, former defensive coordinator with the Clemson Tigers, but also former defensive coordinator with Bob Stoops in Oklahoma. So he goes back to Oklahoma. Who should he hire, you think, between Joe Brady and Chad Morris, who was the offensive coordinator with him at Clemson back in the day when they won a national title? Which one of those two you think he should hire and bring in Oklahoma with him?
I'm not sure I would hire either one of them, Keyshawn. And I know Joe Brady got all this great praise after the Joe Burrow experience, but you guys saw what he did in Carolina, and it was quite frankly pretty embarrassing. I mean, I wouldn't hire Joe Brady. And the name that is circling around that I think is interesting to keep your eye on is Jeff Lebby. He played at Oklahoma, and he's Lane Kiffin's offensive coordinator, Keyshawn, as you well know. And a lot of people think he was really the secret behind what Ole Miss did this year with Matt Corral.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.